Eddie McBolt was no stranger to solitude. As the resident fix-it guy on the fringes of the colony on planet Sparky, his days were spent elbow-deep in broken gadgets, gears, and mystery wires, content to let the machines do the talking. His workshop, let's be honest, a glorified pile of junk, was a mess only he could navigate, but it was his happy place. With only a few dozen people on Sparky, the most social interaction Eddie got was from grumpy farmers complaining about busted drones or some power thingy that wouldn't stop sparking. Not exactly cosmic party central. One evening, as the twin moons of Sparky cast their eerie glow over his cluttered mess of a workshop, Eddie wiped his greasy hands on his even greasier rag, thinking about wrapping up for the day. The stars had always fascinated him, sure, but that whole boldly going where no one has gone before thing? Yeah, no thanks. That was for other people. People who liked wearing spandex jumpsuits and making dramatic speeches. Just as he was about to turn in, zap! A blinding light flashed across the sky, making his heart skip like a faulty engine. Eddie squinted at the horizon, expecting to see a malfunctioning cargo ship or some other space junk, but nope, this was something else. Something sleek, shiny, and way too fancy for Sparky's standards. The thing screamed alien tech, louder than a malfunctioning warp core. The ship landed with the grace of someone parallel parking a luxury spacecraft, which is to say, way too fancy for his taste, and out popped two figures. Tall, blue, glowing, and clearly not from the "I need my tractor fixed" crowd. "Are you the engineer?" the taller of the two asked, her voice ringing out like she was trying to win Galaxy Idol. Eddie blinked. He'd fixed a lot of strange things in his time, but nothing like this. He was half tempted to point them to the colony suggestion box, which was currently holding loose screws, but there was something in their big, glowy eyes, a mix of desperation and hope, that made him pause. Yeah, that's me. Eddie McBolt. Engineer extraordinaire. What seems to be the problem? The taller blue lady gestured dramatically at their fancy craft. Our power core is failing. Can you fix it? Eddie swallowed hard. This wasn't a tractor or a toaster, and it definitely wasn't going to take a wrench and a good kick. But Eddie McBolt didn't back down from a challenge, mainly because he didn't know how. Sure, he said, with more confidence than he actually felt. Let me grab my, toolbox. Inside, the ship was something straight out of an intergalactic IKEA catalog. Smooth walls, glowing symbols, and a crystalline core that looked like it belonged in a high-end jewelry store. Sparks crackled around it like a cat that had been rubbed on a carpet one too many times. Eddie scratched his head, then did what any good mechanic would do in this situation. He poked it. Hard. Yep. Definitely broken, he declared, with all the authority of a guy who once fixed a hovercart with duct tape. The taller woman, who was clearly the leader of this sparkly duo, watched him with an intensity that made him more nervous than a squirrel on an electric fence. Can you repair it? She asked, probably not realizing Eddie was mostly winging it at this point. Yeah, sure. It'll take a bit of time, though. Got any snacks? Hours passed. Eddie tinkered, connected wires, and generally hoped the ship wasn't going to explode in his face. Strangely enough, the more he worked, the more it felt like the ship was actually helping him. The thing hummed, pulsed, and honestly seemed to know more about what was going on than he did, which, to be fair, wasn't that hard. You're doing it, the shorter woman said suddenly, breaking her long silence. Doing what? Not blowing myself up. No, she said with a smile. You're bonding with the ship. Eddie froze. Bonding? Like, emotionally? Because I don't think I'm ready for that kind of commitment. The taller one shook her head. No, not like that. Our technology is alive. It responds to those who understand it. You're not just fixing the ship. You're becoming part of it. Eddie stared at her, open-mouthed. He was good with machines, sure, but this was starting to feel like some weird sci-fi soap opera. So, I'm like the ship's mechanic and its therapist now. The woman smiled. Something like that. By the time he finished the repairs, Eddie was exhausted, sweaty, and feeling like he might need a vacation, a long one. But the ship was humming along happily, its core glowing with a steady pulse, like a giant cosmic heart. You did it, the tall one said, placing a cool hand on his shoulder. You saved us. Eddie grinned, feeling a weird sense of pride. Well, you know, it's what I do. Then came the bombshell. The bond you formed with the ship. It's permanent. You're connected now. You can come with us, if you want. Eddie blinked. Wait, what? You're part of the ship, the shorter one said, like this was the most normal thing in the world. It recognizes you now. You could fly it if you wanted. Fly it. Eddie, who had never even been able to parallel park his hovercart, suddenly imagined himself behind the controls of this alien spaceship, flying through the galaxy. No pressure, right? The taller woman nodded solemnly. No pressure. But if you stay, this opportunity will pass. Eddie looked back at his workshop, full of half-finished projects and broken gadgets. This was his life, simple, predictable, and, okay, maybe a little boring. Could he really give it all up for an adventure? The ship hummed invitingly, as if it were winking at him. Come on, Eddie. You know you want to. All right, Eddie muttered to himself. Let's do this. What's the worst that could happen? Eddie McBolt stared at the control panel in front of him. It was a dizzying array of buttons, levers, and glowing symbols, like someone had combined a piano with a game of space Tetris. He felt like a kid staring at the dashboard of a fighter jet, only the stakes were a lot higher than crashing a go-kart at the colony's annual race. The two alien women, who still hadn't introduced themselves, stood behind him. The taller one, who Eddie had mentally dubbed Blue Captain, looked out the viewport like this was just another day at the office. The shorter one, Blue Quiet One, stood silently but had a tiny smile that said, "Good luck, buddy." "All right, so you want me to fly this thing?" Eddie asked, nervously adjusting his grip on a nearby lever that, for all he knew, could trigger the ship's self-destruct sequence or maybe just the windshield wipers. Blue Captain nodded seriously. "Yes, you are bonded to the ship now. It will respond to your commands. Just think about where you want to go." Eddie blinked. "Think about it? I can't even decide where to order lunch back home, and now you want me to think my way through space travel." "It's more intuitive than you think," Blue Quiet One said softly. "The ship knows you now. Just trust it." Eddie raised an eyebrow. "Trust a spaceship that I met yesterday? Yeah, sure. What could possibly go wrong?" Taking a deep breath, Eddie closed his eyes and thought, "All right, let's not explode, and maybe let's not crash into any moons." Nice and steady. The ship's hum seemed to shift in tone, like it was agreeing with him. Before Eddie knew it, the controls lit up, and the ship lifted gently off the ground. Eddie's eyes snapped open as the dusty surface of Sparky disappeared beneath them. He was doing it. He was actually flying the thing. "Holy space junk," he muttered, gripping the control panel a little tighter. "I'm doing it. I'm not dead." Blue Captain smiled in that graceful, enigmatic way only alien space explorers can. "See? The ship trusts you. Now, plot a course for Sector 9. Sector 9. That sounds ominous. What's in Sector 9? Pirates? Black holes? Space jellyfish? Please tell me it's space jellyfish." "Worse," Blue Quiet One said, her smile fading. "Corporate bureaucrats." Eddie's hands froze. "Wait, hold up. You're telling me we're going into space bureaucracy? I didn't sign up for filing paperwork in zero gravity." Blue Captain let out a sigh. "We need supplies, Eddie. And the only place to get them is Galaxicorp Station. They run everything in Sector 9. "Of course they do," Eddie grumbled, punching in the coordinates on the console, or at least what he hoped were coordinates and not the button for the ship's espresso machine. "Can't escape corporate overlords even in the far reaches of space, huh?" The ship whizzed through the stars at a speed that made Eddie's stomach lurch, like he'd just downed 3 too many of those mystery meat burritos from the colony canteen. He tried to focus on anything but how his organs were rearranging themselves. "So, you guys got names?" Eddie asked, desperate for a distraction. The taller woman turned toward him. "My name is Zara. This is Kai." "Zara and Kai, huh? Cool, cool," Eddie said, still nervously watching the controls. "And what's the mission, again? You know, besides dragging me into space bureaucracy hell." Zara's expression grew serious. "We're explorers, Eddie. We seek to establish connections with other civilizations, share knowledge, and, well, avoid war." "Right, that's a casual Friday," Eddie said, trying not to think about the fact that he might now be involved in galactic diplomacy. And you think I'm qualified for this because I can fix a busted toaster? Kai, who had been mostly silent, chimed in. Your skills are valuable, Eddie, and your bond with the ship makes you more important than you realize. Eddie stared at her. I hope you're not expecting me to negotiate peace treaties with Space Kings. I mean, I can barely negotiate a decent price for spare parts. Zara chuckled. We don't expect you to be a diplomat, Eddie. Just keep the ship running, and maybe try not to blow anything up. Eddie was about to respond when the ship gave a sudden lurch, throwing him forward against the controls. Eddie McBolt scrambled to regain his balance as the ship jerked violently, throwing him face-first into the control panel. The soft hum of the ship shifted into a deep, unsettling rumble, like a giant space cat growling in its sleep. What the space taco was that? Eddie yelped, frantically pushing buttons in an attempt to stabilize the ship. Zara, ever the calm and composed space captain, stood firm behind him. It appears we've encountered some unexpected interference. Interference? Eddie asked, his voice pitching higher than he'd like. Please tell me it's not some kind of space kraken. I can handle malfunctioning toaster ovens, but I draw the line at giant tentacled monsters. Kai, standing next to Zara, squinted at the glowing symbols floating mid-air. It's not a kraken, Eddie. It's a gravitational anomaly. Though, that's actually more worrying. Gravitational anomaly, Eddie said, his hands now gripping the controls as if they were the reins to an unruly mechanical bull. Define more worrying. Are we talking, oh no I'm late for work, worrying, or, oh no we're about to die in the void of space, worrying? Somewhere in between, Zara replied, her eyes scanning the strange energy readings on the ship's display. It seems like a wormhole. A small one, but it's pulling us in. Oh, great. A space vacuum. Why not? Eddie groaned, his stomach flipping as the ship lurched again, the starry backdrop outside warping into a swirling vortex. I'm not even sure I have my space legs yet, and now you're telling me we're about to dive into some cosmic whirlpool? Zara placed a hand on his shoulder, surprisingly gentle given the chaos unfolding around them. Relax, Eddie. You're bonded with the ship. Trust it. It will guide us through this. Yeah, okay, but last time I trusted a machine, I ended up locked in my bathroom for 3 hours because the door panel malfunctioned. So, pardon me if I'm a little skeptical. Kai smirked, though her eyes remained fixed on the ship's readouts. This ship isn't your bathroom door, Eddie. Just focus on maintaining the course. We'll get through this. Eddie muttered something about how his life had gone from quiet engineer to reluctant space cowboy in under 24 hours, but he did his best to comply. His hands steadied on the controls, and with a deep breath, he focused on the ship's rhythmic hum. It was strange, but he could almost feel the ship responding to him, like it was alive, like it trusted him back. The vortex outside continued to twist and churn, but the ship moved more smoothly now, cutting through the gravitational chaos as if surfing the waves of spacetime. Eddie didn't know if it was his doing or the ship's, but either way, they weren't dead yet. A definite improvement. Just as suddenly as it had begun, the ship lurched one last time, and the vortex spat them out into the calm, black void of space. Eddie let out a long, shaky breath and released the controls, his knuckles aching from gripping them so tightly. Well, that was horrible, he said, leaning back in his seat. Anyone else need a snack? Or maybe a sedative? Zara and Kai exchanged glances, and for a second, Eddie thought he saw a flicker of amusement pass between them. Zara stepped forward, her tone calm as ever. You did well, Eddie. The ship responded to you. Thanks, I think, Eddie replied, still trying to slow his racing heart. So, where are we now? Kai looked over the readings on the main panel, her brow furrowing slightly. It looks like we've been thrown slightly off course. We're no longer heading toward Galaxicorp Station. Oh no! Eddie gasped in mock horror. You mean we might avoid dealing with space bureaucrats today? What a tragedy! Zara gave him a flat look. Unfortunately, we do need those supplies. Right. Supplies. Because who doesn't love haggling with space accountants? Eddie leaned over to peer at the screen, where a small planet had appeared on the radar. So, where did we end up? Somewhere less soul-crushing, I hope. Kai tapped the display, zooming in on the planet. It looked like a typical rocky, barren wasteland. It's an uninhabited planet in the outskirts of the Vylones system. Zara nodded. We should set down and assess the ship. The wormhole may have caused damage to the systems. Eddie sighed, already imagining himself crawling into some cramped compartment to fix yet another alien power core. Of course. Because if there's one thing I'm great at, it's fixing broken stuff I barely understand. Your skills are valuable, Eddie, Zara said, the faintest hint of a smile on her usually stoic face. We wouldn't have made it this far without you. Eddie blinked, caught off guard by the compliment. Oh, thanks. I guess. Let's just hope I don't blow up the engine this time. The ship descended toward the planet, its sleek form cutting through the thin atmosphere like a knife through space butter. As they touched down, Eddie's stomach flipped again. He was never going to get used to this whole flying through space thing. They landed in the middle of a desolate, rocky plain, the landscape stretching out in every direction with nothing but dust and boulders as far as the eye could see. Eddie unbuckled himself from the pilot's seat and stood up, cracking his neck. All right, he said, grabbing his toolbox. Let's go poke around outside and see what's broken this time. The three of them stepped out of the ship, the dry, dusty air hitting Eddie's face like a slap. The planet was eerily quiet, with only the soft sound of wind whispering through the rocks. Eddie knelt down by the ship's undercarriage and started examining the exterior. So, Eddie said, his voice muffled as he peered into the guts of the ship. You guys run into random wormholes a lot, or was today just my lucky day? He whistled softly. Wormholes are rare, but not unheard of. You handled it well. Eddie grinned, feeling a little more confident. Yeah, well, I try. Just then, a low rumbling sound echoed across the barren landscape. Eddie froze, his head snapping up. He looked at Zara and Kai, who were both staring out at the horizon with tense expressions. Guys, Eddie asked, standing up slowly. Tell me that's just some space wind or, like, a really big tumbleweed. Zara's eyes narrowed. That's not wind. Suddenly, from behind a large rock formation, a massive, lumbering figure appeared. It was covered in thick metallic scales, with glowing red eyes and teeth that looked like they could chew through steel. Eddie's toolbox clattered to the ground. Oh, come on. I just wanted to fix a spaceship, not fight a space dragon. Zara pulled out a sleek, alien weapon from her belt, her eyes locked on the approaching creature. Eddie, stay behind us. This isn't going to be easy. Eddie took a step back, his heart racing. Great. First wormholes, now giant space lizards. Why did I ever leave Sigma 7? As the beast let out a deafening roar, Eddie realized one thing for sure. Space was a lot more adventurous and terrifying than he had ever imagined.